Earlier this week we talked a little bit about some pattern blocks. You can see here that I have some of these shapes that we've actually been working with. Earlier this week you guys worked on making some pictures, so if I wanted I could try and make a little stick figure here, and we could give this little person some legs here. So we could say that we're trying to make people. We could flip this hat around, give them an upside down hat. So again, we've been talking about pattern blocks. Now the one thing is with pattern blocks is we can actually use some pattern blocks to show fractions, and that's what we're going to practice today, is using some pattern blocks to show fractions. So I'm going to start, what I did is I took a rhombus. You can see here I took this rhombus and I actually just traced it. So I took this rhombus and I traced it. Now if I asked you to show me 1/2 with this rhombus, what I could do is I could try and use some of these other shapes to divide it into half. Or remember, this bottom number tells us how many pieces we need to have. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out which pattern blocks could I put in here that would require 2 pieces. You can see here I could take this hexagon, I could try and put it in there. You can see it's not going to work at all. I could take this trapezoid, put in here. You can see it's not even going to come close to fitting. Now I could put the rhombus back in there, but that's only one rhombus. It only took me one rhombus to fill this spot. Now if I want to try and divide this into 2 equal parts, I'm going to use triangles. And you can see here that if I put a triangle here, it doesn't really work, but if I actually turn it sideways, I can put one triangle and then I can put a second triangle, and you can see that makes a rhombus. And the one thing that I want to show you is that it took 2 triangles to show halves, because remember, halves is 2 equal pieces. So you can see where those come together. If I wanted to draw a line where those come together, the line would actually go here to show you that one triangle goes here and another triangle goes here to show halves. So that was using triangles to again show halves. And what we could do then is, if I wanted you to label each piece, we would say this piece would be 1 out of 2, then this piece would be 1 out of 2, and then if I said I need you to shade 1/2, you could color in 1/2. Now we're going to move on to using a trapezoid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this trapezoid and I'm actually going to trace around the outside edge of this trapezoid so that we just have a flat trapezoid on the paper for us to try and fill with shapes. Now if I wanted to take this trapezoid and I said, you know what, I need you to show me thirds. Well, to show thirds on here, it's going to be kind of hard if I just said to start drawing some lines to make thirds. So what you can actually do is you can actually use some of the other pattern blocks to see if you can make thirds. So again, if I tried the hexagon, you can see the hexagon's not going to work. I could try my rhombus. You can see the rhombus. I mean, I could turn it sideways, and you know, there's one piece, and I guess I could put my triangle in here, and I guess that makes it, but that's only 2 pieces. Remember, since we're trying to show thirds, I need 3 pieces. So I need a total of 3 pieces. In order to show 3 pieces, again, I'm going to try and use these triangles here. And if I try and do 2 of them here, you can see I have 2. And then if I try to put this last piece in, it doesn't quite work. But if I actually turn it upside down and slide it in, you can see I'm able to make that trapezoid using 3 of these triangles. And that's what I need. I need to figure out which pattern blocks can I put in there to make so that it's a total of 3 pieces. You can see here's 1, 2, and 3. Now comes the tricky part of drawing those lines. And to show you, you can kind of see the outline right here. Here would be a line, and then here would be a line. So what that would actually look like, if I take this one off and I take this one off, I can leave this triangle here, and then I can actually trace to show you that if I move this last one now, I have, using my triangles, made 3 pieces. So this would be 1/3, this would be 1/3, and then this last one would be 1/3 as well. Now if I said to shade 1/3, you would just color in 1 piece. Now if I said to shade 2/3, that means I need 2 pieces colored in. So then I could just shade two pieces. So again, I took a trapezoid, and what I did with that trapezoid is I took some of these triangles and put on top to show you that it takes three triangles, or I can split this trapezoid into thirds using these triangles. Now we're going to move on to using a hexagon. So to start, I'm going to trace around the outside edge of this hexagon. And with this, what I'm going to try and do is I want to try and make this hexagon into halves. So I want to take this hexagon and I want to show halves. So again, halves would be 1 over 2. So I want to show halves with this hexagon. So that means I need to figure out which of these shapes I could use to show halves. And since it's halves, it needs to be two pieces. So which one could I show with two pieces? Well, I could put this one on here and this one. Well, that's two pieces, but does it fill it up? No. So these are out of the question. So our rhombus, not going to work. Now I could try my triangles. There's two of them. You can see it doesn't even come close to filling it up. So triangles aren't going to work to make two pieces. So I could try and put my trapezoid on here, and you can think in your head, I wonder if we might be onto something. So again, I can add another trapezoid, and you can see if I put two trapezoids together, I fill in my entire hexagon. So again, I was trying to show halves, which is 1 over 2. So since the bottom number is 2, that means I need two pieces. And you can see here that I use trapezoids, and I could also turn it this way. And does it fit? No, but I could also keep turning and spinning, and you can see here that it's still taking two pieces to make halves. So what I could do with this, if I needed to show this by removing these, and I wanted to show you this hexagon into two equal pieces, you can use this line on these two trapezoids to see that in the middle there's this line that goes across. So I can take one of these away, I'll leave one trapezoid there and use it kind of to draw a line across. And you can see now I've got two pieces. So this would be taking a hexagon and dividing it into two equal parts. Well, with what pattern blocks? I can use a trapezoid to show you halves, because halves requires two pieces. So there you go. I took a hexagon and made it with two pieces to show halves. So this top part would be 1/2. The bottom part would be 1/2. And then if I asked you to shade in 1/2, you would just shade in 1/2. Now for the toughest one of the day, we're going to work again with the hexagon. So to start, I'm going to trace it so that we have this hexagon nice and flat here on our paper so that we can use this hexagon to fill the shapes. And that wasn't a very good straight line, huh? So this should go there. There. Need to work on my drawing skills, huh? So if we look at this hexagon, what I want to try and do is show sixths. Now that bottom number is important because that tells us how many pieces we're going to make this hexagon into. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to actually need to figure out which of my pattern blocks can I use to fill in this hexagon, but it's going to require 6 of them. Well, if you remember, we just did halves with some trapezoids, and you can see it takes 2 trapezoids to fill in. That's definitely not 6. There's not 6 of these. So the trapezoids, not going to work. So now I could use some rhombuses here, and you can see I could fill in a rhombus here, I could fill in a rhombus there, and then I could fill in another one. Well, you can see that there's only 1, 2, 3. So this would show thirds with 3 of these, but we're not trying to make thirds. We're trying to make a total of 6. Which shape would take 6 to make this hexagon? So what I'm going to do is get rid of the rhombus because those aren't good. Now let's try the triangles. So if I wanted to try the triangles, there's 3 so far. I can keep adding some more here. This would be 4. There's 5. And then the last piece that would go in this little hexagon sandwich, I should say hexagon pizza, would be the 6th triangle. So here is what sixths would look like on a hexagon. It took me a total of 6 triangles to show sixths. And then again, I could use these lines to show the sixths. So I could go and I could trace those, and what we would end up with would be a shape that looks like this. And then I could say, you know, shade in 2/6. So this would be 1, here would be 2, and again, each piece would be 1/6. So I could go through and label each one as 1/6. So that wraps up what we're talking about today with pattern blocks and fractions.